Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we're diving into the incredible true story of a man named Utku. Now, this is one of those stories that sounds almost too good to be true. He was a world-class basketball referee, traveling all over the globe. But his real home, well, it wasn't a place on a map. He found it somewhere totally unexpected, inside a song. And this quote, right from the story's preface, it just perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It's such a powerful idea, right? That home isn't about where you're from, it's about where you feel you can finally, truly be yourself. This was the deep truth that Utku would spend his whole life discovering. So, that brings us to the central question, the real mystery of this explainer. I mean, it sounds kind of like a riddle, doesn't it? How does a man whose life is all about strict rules and sharp whistles find his soul in the free-flowing, emotional music of Portugal? Well, let's find out together.
Okay, so first, to really get this story, you have to understand who Utku was before Lisbon. He was a big deal in his field, a super successful international basketball referee. His job took him everywhere, but no matter where he went, no matter the success, he always felt like an outsider.
And this is what's so fascinating about the guy. You had this real contrast going on. On the outside, Utku was this big, imposing figure, tall, strong, exactly what you'd picture for a referee. But on the inside, he was kind, gentle, had this incredibly warm smile, and always a little bit of a mischievous glimmer in his eye. He was a walking contradiction, just looking for a place that could embrace all of him.
You know how in every great story, there's that one moment, that fork in the road that changes everything? Well, for Utku, that moment wasn't some dramatic event, it was a simple phone call.
Just picture it. He's probably relaxing in his apartment in Istanbul, and the phone rings. It's the International Basketball Federation. They want him to officiate a tournament in Lisbon. Now, Utku had always dreamed of visiting Portugal. So for him, this wasn't just another assignment. This felt like destiny. His heart must have been pounding out of his chest.
And from the second he arrived, Lisbon was everything he'd imagined and more. It wasn't just a crush, it was an instant, deep connection. He was just blown away by the beautiful old buildings, the massive Tagus River, the winding streets of the Alfama district. But it was more than the sights. It was the people, so warm and welcoming, and this hauntingly beautiful music he kept hearing in the streets called Fado. That's what really got him. So he officiates the tournament, does a perfect job, gets all the praise. But that night, lying in his hotel room, looking out over the city lights, he just knew. He was already home. He felt this sense of belonging he had never, ever felt before. And right then and there, he made a massive, life-altering decision. He wasn't going back to Turkey. He was staying. His new life was going to start right here. But of course, making a crazy decision like that is one thing. Actually living it, that's a whole different story. The dream was real, but now came the hard part. Utku's journey was about to enter its most challenging phase, the fight to truly belong. And man, the hurdles were huge. He was literally starting from zero. He didn't speak a word of Portuguese, didn't know a single soul, and finding a job, nearly impossible. And on top of all that, he was hit with these waves of crushing homesickness. It would have been so easy to just pack it all in and go home. But Utku didn't. He was way too determined for that. He just put his head down and got to work, step by step. He signed up for language classes and studied like crazy, every single day. He forced himself to get out there and make friends. And finally, all that hard work started to pay off. He landed a job teaching English. It wasn't refereeing, but it was a start. And this quote, "This is the moment you see the tide turning." It's such a simple thing to say to a friend, but it means everything. It shows that deep, gnawing loneliness that followed him around the world was finally starting to fade. The hard work was working. He wasn't just some tourist anymore. He was actually becoming a part of the city. So, Utku had built the foundation for his new life. A job, friends, the language. But he was about to discover its soul. This is where he finds the one thing that would connect him to Portugal forever. The music of Fado. So, what exactly is Fado? Well, it's this traditional style of music that was born right there in Lisbon. It's famous for being really melancholic and soulful. The songs are almost always about the big stuff, love, loss, and this really specific kind of deep longing. And that feeling of longing, it actually has a special name in Portuguese, saudade. There's no perfect translation in English, but it's this deep, nostalgic ache for something or someone that's gone. For Utku, a man who'd left his entire world behind,
He understood saudade in his bones before he even knew the word for it. So then one day, he's just walking through Lisbon, and he hears a man singing Fado on a street corner. The effect was immediate. It just hit him like a lightning bolt. He was so overwhelmed, he actually started to cry. Because in that moment, he wasn't just hearing a song. He was hearing his own story, his own feelings. And he knew, with total certainty, that he had to learn how to sing it.
So he dove in head first, found a teacher, practiced nonstop for months, and then, the moment of truth. He walked onto the tiny stage of a local bar for his very first public performance. Can you just imagine how terrifying that must have been? And he was a revelation. As soon as he started to sing, the whole bar just went silent. Everyone was completely captivated. He poured every bit of his journey, the loneliness, the struggle, the love for his new home into that song. And when he finished, the place erupted. Thunderous applause. This was it. This was his breakthrough. He hadn't just learned a song, he had finally found his voice.
From that night on, he wasn't just Utku Eratan, the referee from Turkey. He took the stage name Utkas Dochas, and he became a rising star in the Fado world. His unique sound, coming from this unexpected place, just captivated the entire country.
And this brings us to the final and honestly the most beautiful chapter of his story, because once he found his home and his true calling, Utko, or I guess we should say Utkas, went on to live a life of just absolute joy.
His life just blossomed. His fame grew beyond Portugal, and he started touring the world again, not as a referee this time, but as a celebrated Fado singer. He found love, marrying a wonderful woman named Maria, and together they raised 2 kids, Miguel and Sofia, in the city he adored. He lived this long, full, happy life and passed away peacefully in his sleep at 90 years old. A man who was finally, completely home.
What a life. I mean, to go from being an outsider everywhere to becoming a beloved cultural icon in your chosen country, it's just amazing. His legacy isn't just in the beautiful music he made, but in his powerful story that reminds us that home isn't always a place you're born into. Sometimes it's a place you have to go out and find, or even build for yourself.
So as we close this out, the story of Utkas Dochas kind of leaves us with a big question to think about. It's not about geography or your passport. It's about that feeling of acceptance, of being your truest self. Where is the place that you truly feel you belong?